Welcome to a Tool Talk video about the field management section in the Mixed Matters tool. My name is Jeff Jocelyn, Digital Ag Lead with LG Seeds. The question we'd like to discuss with this video is from what perspective should the field practices questions in this section be answered? I believe this is one of the most misunderstood areas in the Mixed Matters tool itself. We have categories that we're talking about with the questions, and they're going to fall into practices both by individual crop as well as what applies to both, as well as goals and challenges, again, by crop and unique. I would also argue that the practices themselves can also be both goals and can be challenges when we're trying to fit the right genetic to the right field. That takes time. So let's look at how these questions are designed to save time. We want to answer the questions as they apply to the majority of the fields, not the farm as a whole. Doing that reduces the number of revisions or edits that are required to make each field accurate when we go to the select crop section. So remember that there are 9 questions per crop or per field, whichever way you look at it, plus the field name is an editable area. How much time does this really take? Well, what if we looked at this as answering each question for each field every time? So 9 questions on 30 fields would be 270 questions. If we say it takes roughly a minute to be thoughtful about that, and it probably doesn't in a lot of situations, but to be safe, we'll use a minute. That's 4.5 hours to answer these questions if we did it on a field-by-field basis every time. But by doing it the way the Mixed Matters tool does, if we start out by answering the 16 initial questions, use a minute for that, and then if we say when we go to edit them in the select crops, it'll take us maybe 30 seconds to do an edit, and if we do about 3.5 edits per field, that's 52 minutes. If we add that initial 16 minutes back in that answers our first set of questions, then that's still just a little over an hour versus 4.5 hours to answer the questions on a field-by-field basis for that whole operation. That's a big deal. Let's take a look at what this looks like in the tool itself. A good example is the corn trait selection. We have 5 choices that we could choose, and we could choose all 5 of them. And maybe that would cover some farms that we really have that many choices, usually not. But even so, we don't want to choose more than one. We want to choose the one that fits the majority of the fields. That way we have less to revise later on. Maturity is another good example. On a given farming operation, we might have a maturity range of 8 days, for example, maybe 10 days in some situations. But that is not the majority of the acres. The majority of acres would probably be more like a 3 or 4 day range. So by doing that, we save time later from having to edit all that information. So the field management focus of this section is to understand the goals, challenges, and practices for every field, but to stay accurate and specific and still do it quickly while offering the best possible recommendation. A caution we would add to this is that the answers to the initial questions are meant to be edited. No matter how many fields that are in an operation, if the initial field management answers are not edited in the select crops section later, and if soils and rainfall forecasts don't vary significantly, the tool is essentially going to consider all fields as one field, and therefore it's only going to recommend the same products for all the fields. The field management section in the Mixed Matters tool, the way to answer those questions is to apply to the majority of the fields so that enables the users to build seed plans for all fields very quickly. Thanks for joining us for this Tool Talk.